Welcome back to Natalie and Company. I am Natalie, and you are the company that I do like to keep sometimes. Less often recently, but I have, just like I always have, been reading. Of course. I'm here to give you my top books of 2024. I found some really amazing gems that I really loved this year, despite having a pretty medium reading year. I read a total of 61 books this year. Majority I gave under a 4 or under. I think there can't be more than 10 that I've given a 5. Pretty sure there's only like 7 or 8. So not even all of these that I'm about to give you are 5s. They are my tops of the year. Ones that I immensely enjoyed, that were boundary breaking for my own reading purposes, or just some damn good books. These are in no particular order except for my top 3 books. So let's get into it. First, we have my only nonfiction that landed on the tops. I read some pretty good nonfiction this year, but nothing that truly wowed me like Bad Gays, A Homosexual History by Hugh Lemmy and Ben Miller. This is a nonfiction that details the lives of some really horrible gay people. The historical context given is part of a larger conversation about what homosexuality and the idea of homosexuality means today. And in these pages, they go through this journey with you over time of all of these gay people that have impacted the ideas that the world has had about homosexuality. And it showed how over time the negative impacts of people that were gay on history have culminated in the negative ideas about homosexuality that we have today. And it talks a lot about how the ideas that we have about homosexuality today are heavily rooted in colonialism, imperialism, white supremacy, all of these ideas, and how the idea that we have of homosexuality today no longer serves the queer community. It no longer serves it as a collective, as a found family energy. And it is this book was absolutely genius. I was blown away with like every page and every conclusion that they brought together in each of these ideals. I just think that it's so enjoyable too. Like there's so many just like queer jokes, and it's just so much fun, despite also being like very radicalizing. They talk very much so about how queerness can't be described by the ways that it has been described in the past, because it is just something that is completely different. It's something that is always evolving, something that is always changing. And I love a hot pink book cover. Absolutely 5 out of 5 stars. Pick up Bad Gays if you're looking for a fun and raucous romp through history and our ideas of identity. Next is one that I ended up on a lot of people's top books list because it is genius. It is a perfect work of fiction, and that would be Minor Detail by Adania Shipley. Minor Detail is the story of a Palestinian girl who is kidnapped and taken prisoner by an Israeli troop, is the first half. And then the second half is the tale of a modern Palestinian woman and her search for information about this girl and her obsession with information about this girl and finding it. So interesting and sad, of course, how hard it is for the Palestinians to discover their own history. The way that she formulates this story is the way that like you would imagine the great writers of our past to compose a story. It's minute details and the way that they go into the meaning of the story, the way that the horrible actions are portrayed in such a cold manner on purpose, because it fully portrays to you the Palestinian experience, the spectrum of the Palestinian experience in many different ways in its tiniest moments. There's so much, despite this being one of the shortest books that I read all year, and it's just like this is the kind of thing that should be required reading. Like, I think it has this analytical ability that shouldn't be required of Palestinian writing, but because it exists within this one, this has classic value, like classical value, not as in like Western value, but as in like this is going to hold a very specific and important place in the history of publishing, because I think that this was, in my opinion, one of the fiction novels that really got the ball rolling on Palestinian literature. I think people saw this, people read this, and then they're suddenly, there's so much more out there to discover. Since I lack the ability to evaluate things rationally, situations like these have a severe impact on me. They shake and destabilize me to the point that I can no longer fathom what is permissible and what is not. And I end up trespassing even more borders, worse ones than before. Yet all my fear and anxiety and internal turmoil dissipates when this trespassing occurs within the confines of my solitude. Solitude is so forgiving of trespassed borders. Genius. Just absolutely genius. Next, we have This Is How You Lose the Time War. I am a massive fan of multi-world when it's done properly, which I am super picky about. By the way, watch Paprika, animated by the same guy who animated Akira. Literally one of the best movies I've ever seen in my entire life. There's no way that that guy that made Inception didn't watch Paprika before he wrote Inception. It's there. Like, oh my god, it's so much better. It's so much better than Inception. Oh my god. This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Motar and Max Gladstone. This Is How You Lose the Time War is the story of Red and Blue, who are agents working for their own respective secret governments, traveling through time in order to win this war with the big W. Right? And they spend so much time being the best at what they're doing that they interact and start writing each other letters. So this whole book is in the form of letters, and in my opinion, I think you really need to read the physical. I think that the way that the prose is written, it's written to be read, it's not written to be listened to. And I think the audiobook is good. It does it good, but I don't think that it does it justice as much as reading the physical copy of the book does. As you can see, it tabbed the shit out of it because I just thought that it was so beautiful. I love ponderance. I love ponderances on love, on war, on what's just and what is right and what is betrayal. And I just felt like it was just like the perfect little morsel all wrapped up into the bow, because sometimes those topics can be dragged out and drone on and on about like, oh, all of these possibilities and all of these things that can change, but this was just like, it was perfect. I feel like it couldn't have been any longer. 5 out of 5. Next, I have the only series to land up on my list. We have We Hunt the Flame and We Free the Stars by Hafsa Faisal. I'm gonna hold up We Hunt the Flame because I love this cover. That was what attracted me to it in the first place. And then I dove into this world and it was so stunning. We Hunt the Flame and We Free the Stars is a duology set in a world in which all of the magic has disappeared from it for some reason that they are not aware of. But a group is put together in order to try and attempt to retrieve magic from this island where all of their protectors had previously disappeared on. So they go on this huge journey in order to free magic, ponder power and its ideas, and like whether they even deserve magic to come back in the first place. And it's awesome. It talks so much about death. Like there's so much angst in it. Like, I love angst. And the enemies to lovers in here is just yearn. That's what I love in my enemies to lovers. And it just was the perfect exact blend for me. I think that the way that the books talk about how the fight for being a good person is constant, it never ends. There's no finished to becoming who you are or becoming better. There's only are you choosing to be good now, or are you now choosing to be bad? And I think that the way that the story is written is so good. We Hunt the Flame, I will say, We Hunt the Flame is definitely better than We Free the Stars. We Free the Stars is a thickie, but I think, to me, it makes sense why. I think reaching the ends of these novels is so rewarding, but I do think that there is like a second act drag in the sequel of the duology. It was very minor. It wasn't enough to really impact my rating. I mean, this was a 5, and then We Free the Stars was a 4.5. It's been so long since I just like giggled and loved a fantasy like that, and I think I want to try and find more. I want to try and find more fantasies like that this year that can bring me that kind of joy, because it was a very warm and comforting pocket of my own thoughts that this book put me in. Her newest book is about tea, and so I'm like, I really want to read it. So I'm hoping that it brings back that like pocket of like joy and warmth that this duology inspired in me. Before we continue on, I have an honorable mention who I will be showing you in a full, but this is absolutely one of my new favorite books that I own. This is Sketchbook 5 by Felicia Chiao. You may have seen her artwork. It goes viral just because it's just perfect. It's perfect. It's everything that I love about art and graphic style. And this is a replica of her 5th sketchbook that she carried with her from January 1st, 2016 to September 23rd, 2018. And it is just, I'm not going to show you now, I'm going to show you in a better clip. But like this book is my friend. Like, I hold this book sometimes, and I've left it on my coffee table and just picked it up on the occasion and turned to random ones, but then I've also sat and turned each individual page and read each little individual note, because there are recreations of little notes that she left for herself in here, like literally sticky notes that are left in here, and it makes me want to cry. There's absolutely no words in it. There is 2 more that she has released, and I need them to be a part of my collection immediately. Or my life is no longer filled with joy and happiness anymore. Next, we have Mislaid in Parts Half Known. This is the 9th in the Wayward Children series, I'm pretty sure. And our main character walks through the door, as happens in the Wayward Children series, and she finds the world of lost things, where lost things turn up. And that is the book before this one. This one then incorporates the rest of our lovely cast of characters in the Wayward Children series, and they go on an adventure for justice and for the betterment of their world. It feels like things are beginning to ramp up in the series, as in like there's some kind of end game that is on the horizon that we can finally see now. It just was amazing. It really was. I think it really brought so much. It brought together a lot of like the parts of the Wayward Children series that can sometimes feel disjointed. I am absolutely loving the Wayward Children series. I recommend it to anybody who needs like comfort and warmth and the healing of childhood trauma in their life, because I think that it does a really good job at doing that and portraying children made for adults, because I don't think the Wayward Children series is necessarily made for younger audiences. I think the Wayward Children series is made for adults exploring like their own childhood and the concepts that they dealt with in childhood and like their evolved ideas of childhood. It's very much so, to me, written like older than your average something for like young adult or new adult. It's very much written as in like, here are these ideas presented out as children. Which child are you? Which door would you have wanted to go through to escape the world that you were given? And it's so impactful for that exact reason. I just love it. I love it, and I'm so sad that the audiobook is going to be over in like 5 hours, and then I'm going to have to wait a whole nother year for the next one. Okay, now, okay, I said the top 3 were gonna be, but honestly, this next one is number 4. So, the countdown begins now. The 4th best book that I read in 2024 was Bunny by Mona Awad. I know. Surprise, surprise. Another woman loved Bunny. It's just so good. It's just so good. It is peak women's horror. Like, in all honesty, like, and the commentary that is so deep in it of like rich people and mental health and poor people and mental health, and how like rich people, they can be as crazy as they want because they have money. It doesn't matter if they're crazy, but the second a poor person is some kind of crazy, suddenly literally everything is going wrong. Like, I think there is such this smart, this not even just brilliant undertone the whole time of like this gap between our main character, who has somebody who has grown up in poverty, and the rest of the characters who are all rich socialites that have been rich their whole entire life. And I could literally talk for hours about Bunny. I need to shout out Brooklyn's Library and Tofu, because I think that because without them and the Bunny-a-thon that they did, I would not have picked this up this year, and it ended up being the 4th best book that I read the entire year. I think that Mona Awad is absolutely for me, and I cannot wait to pick up something else. Something else by her. Truly cannot wait. Next, the 3rd best book that I read this year, Ever Since I Did Not Die by Rami al-Ashek, a poetry collection translated from Arabic about a Syrian-Palestinian poet who, being a refugee from Palestine, was born in a Syrian refugee camp. I would honestly say trigger warning, because I think that this poetry can be quite gory. If you can handle that kind of thing, it is legitimately some of the most beautiful writing I have ever read. And I don't say that lightly, because this book just impacted me in ways that I cannot communicate to you verbally, because the only words that exist to be able to communicate these huge feelings that I'm feeling are the words that are detailed in this book. There is no other way that I could ever imagine conversing or representing Rami al-Ashek's experiences other than the exact words that he used here. And this has one of the most beautiful prefaces I've ever read in my entire life. I gathered these texts like someone collecting body parts. Here are the pieces of my body haphazardly brought together in a paper bag. This randomness of body parts is real in its destruction, bloody at times, violent, honest, imaginary, personal. It looks like me with all my madness and sickness, how the revolution made me grow, what the war broke inside me, and what exile chipped away. I have no head, no name, no identity. This is amazing. Everything. It is so sad. It's so heartbreaking. I don't know if you can tell that that's kind of books that I like, but it is truly monumental as a book. It really is. I do not know if I will get a similar reading experience to what it was like reading this anytime soon. Number 2. My second best book of 2024, Prophet Song by Paul Lynch, the Booker Prize 2023 winner. I saw this at the beginning of the year, winning the Booker Prize, and the cover was what intrigued me originally, and then so many people were saying these amazing things, and then I was not having like any summary about it. So I'm going to tell you what this is about very vaguely, because I think this is one of those ones that the more you go into it without knowing, the better. But Prophet Song is the story of a family living in Ireland under increasingly authoritarian rule. So throughout the process of the book, we see the advancement of basically fascism in how it affects this individual families. It's like a very small magnifying glass on a very small part of a larger whole, and it puts such like a large idea as like authoritarianism and fascism into such like a stark perspective. It is super dark, super sad, just like everything else that I loved this year. It's sad. It is literally a mirror of the life that we see progressing today. And it's scary to read that, but I think that it is so important and essential to ponder on these ideas of like, what will we do if the world falls apart? What will we do if other people try and take over our government? What is it our job to do? How can we better the world but be an individual at the same time? It is, I mean, there's an obvious reason it won the Booker Prize in 2023. It's because it's absolutely genius. It really is. And it is a book that I think about so frequently. We are here with number 1, Stoner by John Williams. I sobbed everything in my soul at the end of this book, and I just can't ignore that. I really can't. Stoner is the story about a man who leaves his family farm in order to go to college for farming, only to discover literature and a love for it and a drive to teach it even. If you are any kind of book lover, you will see yourself reflected in these pages, in Stoner's existence, his ideas and his thoughts as a whole about how reading has fulfilled so much of his life, and yet it isolates him so deeply in everything that he does. God, dude, this fucking book. It's so beautiful and sad to watch this man fail again and again and again and still live in despite all of those failures. Those failures were equally as valuable to him as if he had success after success after success. It's a tale of unfortunate events that ends in such a beautiful and heartbreakingly inspiring way, which I think is so hard to do. Literally, I have always hated white male American authors so much, but if I had been taught this book in school, I feel like I would have such a different outlook on it, because this was beautiful. It was so easily analyzable, and it just felt like home. It really did. The way that Stoner found his life in literature, in not even just the reading of it, but in the writing of it and in the discussing of it, it is so near and dear to my heart. It really is. And that's why it is the best book that I read in 2024. Thank you so much for joining me. I have made 4 videos over the past couple of months, and none of the clips have seen any kind of light of day, but that's okay. Sometimes the creation doesn't happen because the world is really fighting against it right now. But I think it is time. It is time for me to return. It's time for me to come back and watch people's videos, because I really want to catch up and see what other people are reading. I am so grateful to still be here. I really am. The world is a really dark and scary place, and it is our duty as humans to create in the face of that. And I feel like I've really failed at my duty in doing that the past end of the year. And I just think it's time for me to make more, consume less and make more. And that's ultimately my goal this year. My reading goal, my life goal: consume less and create more. There's so many other things that go along with it, but we'll talk about that in another video. Thank you so much for joining me. I am Natalie, and you were wonderful company to keep today. Like, comment, and subscribe. All my links are in the description, and I hope you take care out there. The world's pretty scary, but I am happy to have you here with me. The world's pretty messed up, but I am grateful to have you here with me.